So this is a Honda EU 2000i generator, and I'm going to set it up on these wood blocks because I'm going to change the oil, and the oil changing and carburetor are behind this big access panel on the side of the generator where the pull starter is. And there's this obvious big screw that undoes that hatch. And then there's a similar big screw that lets you take off the cover for the air filter. And since I'm doing maintenance on the generator, I guess this will be the first thing. I'm using some water and Dawn dishwashing detergent because it's good enough for like oil-soaked ducks. And so there is some oil in these filters that helps it to trap dirt. And I'm basically like soaking it like a sponge and then squeezing the water out. And I did that a bunch of times to get the oil and all the dirt out. And now I'm doing the same to rinse it in clean water. And I'm trying to squeeze all the water out. And now I've got a towel that has seen better days, and I'm using it to try and get the bulk of the water that I couldn't squeeze out sort of absorbed out of this. And once I've gotten all the moisture out that I could with the towel, paper towels are even more absorbent. So I'm going to go through a few paper towels just to get the very last bits of moisture out of the filter. So see, there is a little bit of moisture left there. And I'll do the same with the dry parts of the towel. And then I'll change paper towels and do another thing where I kind of roll it up real tight, like rolling up a sleeping bag. That helps to compress the sponge more. Real tight. And that'll get the very last of the water out of it. And I repeat that a few times. So now that it's completely dry, I'm putting it in a Ziploc baggie and I'm putting some oil in there. And then I'm going to knead the filter around until it gets completely saturated with the oil. Well, I mean, there should be oil everywhere in the filter. I'm going to squeeze the oil back out, but everywhere, I should be able to push it everywhere and see oil coming out at the edge. And now, just like the water, I'm going to try and get as much of the oil out as I can. You don't really want this soaked with oil. You just want sort of a thin film of oil in there to like help catch the dust. And now I can put the air filter back in the generator. And you just stick it back where it was and put the cover back on. And it's the one giant screw. Once you get the cover aligned, it's just the one giant screw holds it in place. And now that we're through with the air filter, we'll go ahead and change the oil. That's the oil change place. So the oil change spot is down at this corner of the generator, and there's sort of a dipstick on the lid, but really the oil should be filled up right till the point where it's almost going to spill out. And this is why I raised the generator up on blocks, so that when I tilt it over, the oil runs out of that hole and I can catch most of it. So I guess I have to clean up my mess now and then seal up the oil and wipe up any excess oil on the generator. And this is real convenient for adding oil to the generator. It's sort of an extension, and it has threads that fit into where that dipstick and drain plug goes. I should have used this when I drained it as well, if I was a smarter person than I am. Watching there and looking down there. And with the generator level, you want it to just come up to where it's going to leak out. And so I put some paper towel there because there will be some mess. So yes, that is full. And I got a new cap with a magnet on the end. And yeah, this basically is the procedure. As difficult as it may be to believe, and that's it. The oil is filled up to where it's going to overflow, and that's that. There's a threaded insert up top, and these two tabs slide in here. And then that very prominent screw gets screwed into the threaded insert. And that's pretty much it for this side. There's a different access hole for the spark plug on the other side of the generator. And I'm just going to clean it off a bit so that I don't get all the dust and stuff going inside. So that lid just pops off, and then this little boot that goes over the spark plug with the wire on it comes off. And that's the spark plug right there. So you use an extension and a spark plug socket, and you just unscrew the spark plug. And there it is. This doesn't look too bad. There's a little bit of stuff forming on the insulator, and it's a little gray. And really doesn't need to be replaced, but I'll do it anyway since I'm doing the generator now. This is the replacement plug. A brand new spark plug. That's 25 to 28 1/1000ths of an inch, because we use strange units of measurement here. So you don't use the right side of the tool, you use the other side. Okay, so the spark plug tool. It's like a ramp here that gets taller and taller until it drops there again. A spiral ramp for measuring. And so you start at the low end of the ramp. And if you need to close up the gap, you can just push against the tool. If you need to open up the gap, you use this little hole. And you stick this thing in here. And then kind of like a can opener, you can pry. So that's about right now. That's 20, 25, 30. I'm right at about 26. Which is great, because I want to be between 25 and 28. And if you turn it backwards, you can usually feel the threads seat. You don't want to get it cross-threaded. And then you can turn it the right way. I'm just turning it by hand now. And that's it by hand. I think that's it. You don't want to over-tighten it. So now just like another eighth of a turn, and you can feel it snugging down its gasket. And that's probably it. And then if you can get your socket back out, you're almost done. There's this wire, clips on the top of the plug. There's a little tab there, goes in, and that's closed. Starting fluid is basically ether in a spray can. The engines like it. They do. One of their favorite things and our nice clean air filter. Yeah. And it will start now. Oh, son of a bitch. Choke. So I'm saving my filling thing, and I've got this baggie of emergency stuff. There's another air filter and the coarse air filter and a couple of spark plugs. I've got an extra carburetor and some fuel lines and the gaskets for rebuilding the carburetor, extra fuel filter. Oh yeah, and these tools for cleaning out a carburetor. And if I'm taking the generator on the boat, I just bring that whole kit of stuff. So this can be your bonus generator tip. That's the air filter box. This lets air into the carburetor. You take this off if you're going to change the carburetor, basically. But down here is the float bowl from the carburetor, and there's a little hose that comes here out the bottom, and that's to drain the carburetor, and there's a little screw underneath here. And I'm not going to turn it now, but if you loosen that screw, you'll drain all the gas out of the carburetor float bowl. And you do that if you're going to store the generator for any length of time, like months. And that way there isn't gas sitting in the float bowl, which would start to evaporate and then leave varnish and stuff that will clog the jets in the carburetor. So that little screw there drains the float bowl. Have this turned off, right? So the gas is turned off before you do that. And always tighten this after you've drained the gas and before you put the generator away, so that when you add gas to it months later, it doesn't just all go gushing out there. And I guess if you did add gas to your generator and it was gushing out there, you would know that you forgot this float drain screw. And just tighten that and it will stop gushing gas if that was in fact your problem. And so that is the bonus generator tip of the day. And this concludes our educational video on care and maintenance of the Honda EU 2000i inverter generator.